Welcome to the Innovators, the podcast where we talk to the people building the future. In each episode, we sit down with technologists, founders, researchers, and engineers who are doing real, impactful work. They're applying technologies in ways that change how we live, work, and think. Whether it's breakthroughs in AI, climate tech, health systems, or digital infrastructure, this show is about the people turning ambitious ideas into working systems. No hype, just thoughtful conversations with the folks making it happen. Innovators, a podcast about amazing people doing amazing things. Today we have Mayank Kerjiwal. He's the CEO of Grail, which is by scientists for scientists. And you are a computer scientist, which is pretty cool. I think you're the first one that I've had on here. A lot of other people are kind of dilettantes. So welcome.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your career, because it sounds like you were a professor and you were for a bit, but you're building this out.
Yes, that's correct. So I graduated with my PhD in computer science in 2016 from the University of Texas at Austin, and I joined the University of Southern California, or USA, and I've been there since. I still hold an appointment there, although, of course, now I am full-time on Grail.
And why'd you go into the startup world?
So I was very disturbed by the fact that we were not building great tools for scientists. And also, I felt that the AI tools that were coming out were not really doing high-quality work. They were not sort of geared towards real scientists, working scientists. And so I was concerned about quality, and I was also concerned about the cohort that I really represent, which is computer scientists. I waited for a great product to come out, but like so many other founders, I felt finally that I had to take the leap and do it myself, because I just wasn't seeing a great product for scientists.
Okay. So why don't you tell us what Grail does?
Yeah. So the mission of the company is to give billions of hours back to scientists. So we formed the company with that mission. The way that we are doing it is that we are investing very heavily in agents for science. So this is a new field that has really taken shape, I would say, in the last 12 to 18 months. There's been massive progress. The key idea is, how can we get AI agents to work with scientists in a way that boosts scientific productivity exponentially? We're focusing right now on computer science because that is the field that I come from, and all the work is done on computers. So that makes it easier for us to build these agents. But our flagship product is a writing interface that is based on a language called LaTeX, just like the LaTeX gloves you wear. But it's a language that computer scientists use to write papers and books, because it's great for writing algorithms, equations, and so on. So we built an agentic LaTeX editor that allows you to write papers 5 to 10 times faster. So think about it as taking all your experimental logs and all your notes and all the rough things that you've generated along the way. And instead of spending weeks, trying to craft that into a document that you have in your head, you know what it looks like, what it should look like, you're able to do that within hours, potentially. And so this is our flagship product. But Grail will also soon be launching a scientist bot, we call it a SciBot, that will allow you to run actual experiments exponentially faster. So this is coming. We call it a PhD in a box. We don't expect it to actually get a PhD, but it will reduce the time that it takes to do PhD level work today by a factor of 5 to 10x. And so think about what this could do for the world. And that's what we're really excited about right now.
So, I mean, before we get too deep in the tech, are you like saying that it's going to replace, or like it's going to, I guess we could say, assist PhDs and give you PhD level work? What does that mean in a real sense? Does that mean it's constantly going to be working? It's going to produce the quality that a PhD candidate would produce? What does that mean in a quantitative sense?
I think in a quantitative sense, what it will do is that if a PhD student today has to do, let's say, 3 original pieces of work, which is the norm in computer science, depending on the institution, it could be 5, it could be 10. It depends on whether you want to go into academia later. But the norm is 3 to 5 original pieces of work that needs to be written up into a dissertation before you can get your PhD, right? That was the case with me, with many others. What we're saying is that instead of doing 3 original pieces of work, which are relatively minor and incremental for most PhD students, it will become 3 major pieces of work. And the incremental work will all be done by the AI. So our best minds can focus on the really big ideas, the ones that require you to take a lot of risks, that might require running thousands of experiments, trying lots of different things out, or in certain areas like fighting human trafficking with AI, which is one of the projects that I've worked on for over 10 years, going out and talking to human trafficking survivors, working with stakeholders, doing the things that AI cannot do. So I think it's not at all about replacing PhD students. It's about giving PhD students superpowers so that they can go from 3 incremental works to 3 to 5 major works with tens of incremental papers along the way. So it will really change science and computer science, but also I think other sciences will follow suit, where we start focusing on really big pieces of work. And we stop, this whole publish or perish kind of mindset that dominates the institution right now.
So this system basically just produces, right? It'll produce experiments and then run the experiments for you, or do you have to still run them, etc.?
No, it will run the experiments. I think in terms of coming up with original ideas, we still think that the human will play an extremely important role there. In fact, that will become the main role of the human, which is to almost play a curatorial, taste making kind of role, which is the PhD student and the professor will tell the agent that, hey, this is something I want to work on. This is a problem I want to solve. And based on my experience, here's how you might want to think about it. Here are some tips, right? Now, based on that, go ahead, go into the digital realm, download the data sets, read the papers, tell me what you're finding, then run some experiments, show me the results, and then let's go from there. Let's discuss what we should do next. And so this whole cycle between producing results and then figuring out what to do next will shorten dramatically. I will be able to talk to the cybot in the same way that I talk to a PhD student, a first year, second year PhD student. But instead of taking many weeks or months to do the experiment, and then in many cases discovering that there was something wrong with the experiment, so they have to go and do it again, this will reduce to hours. We already have in our internal testing, we are already seeing that we have the product internally already. We are testing it internally already. I was able to conduct experiments on a plane, literally, and I don't know how to write code anymore. It's been 5 or 6 years since I wrote any code, but on the plane, I was able to connect to the science bot and get it to try some experiments for me that I would normally ask a first year PhD student to do. Yeah.
What do the first year PhD students do then?
I think we have to change the way that we train them. What I would focus on, if I'm doing this for new PhD students, some of whom are still in my group because I have grants in my group still, and it's funding my existing PhD students, even though I am full-time on Grail. And what I ask them to do is that, hey, you need to actually go back to basics, as counterintuitive as that sounds. So I'm like, you need to really read the fundamental papers in the field so that you are capable of guiding the AI agent. And so it's much more important that they have a deep fundamental understanding of the field, which can only come through deep engagement with fundamental literature. The AI will not do that for you. You still have to read all the papers and ask the right questions. And we have to go back to the principles of experimental design, which, believe it or not, many PhD students still don't have. Many professors don't have it. They are in such a big rush to keep publishing, to keep trying to go for the 5, 6, 10 top venues because their careers depend on that. The PhD student wants to immediately publish in the top conferences. The professor wants to publish because all of their metrics, all their performance depends on that. That's just not what science was meant to be about. A lot of these works will have no impact. They are only being published because you need to publish them to show your numbers on the CV and so that you can get tenure or you can get a postdoc or you can get the faculty position. So it's become a game. And what we are saying is we need to get it back to true fundamentals, the kind of science that used to be done, I would say, pre-World War II, where we had all the great advances, right, in quantum mechanics and relativity and all those things. I think even great advances in computer science that came after post-World War II with Turing, and von Neumann had great advances in what in now computer von Neumann architecture, but also, so many other things, right? The greats of artificial intelligence, John McCarthy, Marvin Minsky, they were not publishing tens or hundreds of papers a year. On the contrary, they had a few great papers, but they gave a lot of time to those great papers and they had a deep fundamental understanding of the field. We've kind of lost that. If you speak to even very top tier professors and top tier institutions, it's very short term thinking, kind of what you see in the corporate world a little bit, where everyone is bemoaning that we just care about our next quarterly profits and no one is thinking about 10 years down the line. And that's why we need startups and private companies and so on. We're seeing the same thing in academia. And we need to get back to using our mental resources in a more profound way, thinking about big ideas, dreaming, thinking about what the next theory of relativity is going to be. And without fear of, if I do that, I'm going to miss out on the next 50
Interesting.
papers that I could
Yeah.
publish. So that's what we're changing. Yeah.
See, I really appreciate that point of view, because I don't think that's been said yet, right? I think there's a lot of fear associated with this, but there's not really a sense that if I do, if the world is missing out because a PhD student is writing 20 papers during their career versus the one paper associated with, I don't know, the Einstein paper for them. How far along are you guys, and what's the funding situation?
So we are currently funded by Gato Capital, which is a venture capital firm based out of New York City. We got into their elbow grease accelerator in December. We just are on the cusp of completing the accelerator. It's going to end next week with a demo day and a closing event next Thursday. So this is like March 26th around. That they'll be closing out. And so we had angel funding from them. Initially, I funded it myself. So I bootstrapped the company myself, and it was me and my PhD student. We worked for free. We paid for everything initially. But we were very clear in our own mind that if this is going to be viable, we need to really go out there and try to sell this to other investors and get people on board and raise money so we can hire other people. So the Gato Capital funding was very instrumental in doing that. We are now a team of 5. So there's me, my co-founder. We have an AI and growth lead. We just onboarded a marketing lead, and we also have a developer, software engineering lead. So there are 5, and there will be 2 more PhDs who will be coming on board in the summer. So that will make that 7, possibly more. I love being surrounded by scientists, so it's very important to me to keep raising the next round so that we can get talented scientists to come on board and build these great products. Because in my mind, it's the development part is actually easier now than ever. We have great tools for that, but we need to be absolutely sure that we are building high quality products and we're not just building something glossy that kind of looks good. It has all the right buttons. And in the end, it's just kind of like a glorified wrapper around existing infrastructure, like your favorite chatbot or even Claude bot. These are all great tools. We want to use them, but we want to use them in a way that assures high quality for working scientists. We are, going out over the next 2 weeks. Now that the accelerator has ended, we are going to be raising a seed level round over the next month. So that's where we stand right now.
Okay. And the website's grail.page, right? So
Yes.
If people want to check that thing out, it seems like it's fairly specific to computer scientists, but I think the insight that you have on the future of research is going to be pretty vital for everybody, right?
Yes. And speaking of that, the computer science is just a beachhead market simply because we are computer scientists, and the LaTeX editor was our flagship product. And computer scientists, mathematicians, statisticians, they actually use LaTeX a lot. So it made sense for us to start there. But the science part, we want to really link it to cloud labs. So initially it will be computer science, but we are going to start conversations in the next month itself. We've already identified some potential partners where we want to use the science part to connect to these things called cloud labs. They are kind of like an AWS for labs, so like you can link to machines in the lab, and the AI can actually tell the machine that, hey, can you mix these 2 chemicals and do this experiment for me? Or can you, do a physics experiment? Not every experiment could be done, but these labs are now becoming more and more they are really becoming more mature. I wouldn't say they're becoming more common, but there are a couple of really good players, and the big companies are also investing in this direction. So we think that it's not just going to be restricted to computer science, that we will be able to do this for some other physical sciences. But throughout the way, it is very important to me that if we do it for the physical sciences, we want to get actual physical scientists into the company. And we don't just want to presume that we know how to do this. We want to get the physicists, we want to get the chemists, we want to hire them, and we want to really learn from them that, what would make everything a lot more efficient, a lot more productive. How do you do it now? And what do you think will move the needle and make you 5x more productive and not produce slop? So this is, very critical to our mission. As you pointed out, we are by scientists for scientists, and that will always be the case.
Very cool. Thank you for joining us. This is really cool.
Thank you.
All right. This has been the Innovators. I'm John Biggs. We'll see you next time.